The crystalline amphitheater of the Zarkanian Imperial Science Council stretched toward the violet sky of Crystallis Prime, its transparent walls refracting the light of 3 setting suns. Dr. Emily Roberts stood at the center of the vast chamber, her heart pounding, but her voice steady as she gestured to the holographic display floating above the presentation platform. The quantum fold drive doesn't just mash current propulsion systems, she explained, her fingers dancing through the intricate 3-dimensional blueprint. It creates a localized field that allows for instantaneous spatial translation without the current limitations of crystal matrix engines. A ripple of crystalline laughter echoed through the chamber, the sound like breaking glass. The council members' crystalline bodies sparkled with amusement, their faceted faces reflecting Emily's image 1,000 times over. High Counselor Zixtal, his body a towering spire of living crystal, leaned forward from his elevated position. Dr. Roberts, he spoke, his voice resonating through the chamber like a struck bell. Your species has barely mastered basic spaceflight. The quantum mechanics involved in faster-than-light travel are clearly beyond your primitive understanding. Emily's jaw tightened, but she maintained her professional composure. With respect, High Counselor, our calculations are flawed, interrupted Council Member Vixna, her ruby-hued form pulsing with what humans had learned to recognize as condescending mirth. Your race still thinks in linear terms. True quantum manipulation requires crystalline consciousness. Your organic brains simply lack the necessary structure. The hologram shifted, showing simulation data that Emily's team had spent months compiling. Our test results show nothing. Zixtal cut in again. They show nothing because they cannot possibly be real. The Empire has guided younger species for 10,000 years. We have seen countless revolutionary designs. All have failed. Your proposal is merely the latest in a long line of charming primitive fantasies. Emily felt heat rising in her cheeks, but pressed on. The quantum fold drive operates on principles that... The entire council chamber erupted in chiming laughter. Some of the younger council members had begun to fragment and reform, a Zarkanian expression of extreme amusement. Emily stood her ground as the crystalline beings literally fell apart laughing at her life's work. But something caught her attention. High Counselor Zixtal wasn't laughing. His crystalline form had taken on a subtle dark purple hue, a color she'd never seen in their species before. And in the fractured reflections of his faceted face, she saw something that made her pulse quicken. Fear. This session is concluded, Zixtal announced abruptly. Dr. Roberts, the Empire appreciates humanity's enthusiasm. However, for your own safety and development, we must insist you abandon this line of research. Focus on projects more suited to your species' current level of advancement. Emily collected her data crystal, her fingers trembling slightly, not with shame, but with growing conviction. As she walked toward the chamber's exit, the laughter of the council followed her, echoing off the crystalline walls. But she wasn't listening to their mockery anymore. Her mind was racing ahead, remembering that flash of fear in Zixtal's expression. They weren't laughing because her design was flawed. They were laughing because it would work. As the grand doors of the council chamber sealed behind her, Emily's hand closed around the small data drive hidden in her pocket, the one containing the real quantum fold specifications. The simplified version she presented had been enough to scare them. The complete design would do much more than that. Walking through the gleaming crystal corridors of the Imperial Science Center, Emily began composing a message in her head to Dr. Marcus Hayes. His theoretical work on quantum mechanics had been similarly dismissed by the Empire, but she'd read between the lines of his papers. He knew things the Zarkanians didn't want anyone to know. The Empire had made a crucial mistake. They had assumed humanity's greatest strength was their technology. They hadn't realized that humanity's true power lay in their ability to learn from rejection, to grow stronger from mockery, and to recognize the fear behind their oppressors' laughter. Emily smiled as she boarded the transport back to Earth. The Zarkanians had just taught her something invaluable. She was on the right track. Now it was time to show the Empire exactly what primitive humans could do. 3 months after the humiliation at the Imperial Science Council, Emily Roberts stood in a dimly lit underground facility, watching dust particles dance in the beam of a security scanner. The hidden complex, buried beneath the red rocks of the Arizona desert, had once been a Cold War bunker. Now it served a new purpose: humanity's secret resistance against alien oppression. Quantum field stability at 63%. Dr. Marcus Hayes announced from his workstation, his voice echoing off concrete walls covered in holographic displays. His salt and pepper hair caught the blue glow of the scanning equipment as he adjusted parameters on a floating display. Better than yesterday, but still not enough for sustainable fold space generation. Emily crossed to his station, studying the readouts. The Zarkanians' crystal matrix technology uses a completely different approach. Maybe we're thinking too much like them. That's exactly why I got kicked out of Berkeley, Marcus said with a wry smile. Suggested that crystal resonance wasn't the only way to manipulate quantum fields. The Empire's academic advisors had me blacklisted within a week. A new voice cut through their discussion. Speaking of our crystalline overlords, we got company topside. Captain Diana Wells strode into the lab, her Space Force uniform dusty from her perimeter check. Imperial survey ship, doing another routine patrol of the desert. Third one this week. Emily's hands clenched. They're getting suspicious. Let them be suspicious, Diana said, pulling up a tactical display. My contacts in orbital defense say they can't scan through the mineral deposits in these rocks. That's why we chose this location. She paused, studying Emily's expression. You're thinking about changing something, aren't you? I know that look. Emily nodded, moving to the central holodeck. Marcus, you said crystal resonance isn't the only way. What if we're approaching this backward? Instead of trying to match their technology, what if we use our own biology as the template? Marcus's eyes widened. The human nervous system does operate on quantum principles at a microscopic level, but interfacing biological patterns with a drive system would be incredibly dangerous, Diana finished, but she was smiling. Just the way I like it. My pilots have been complaining that the neural interfaces on our current ships feel artificial. Maybe that's because we've been copying Zarkanian designs instead of making our own. The holodeck came to life as Emily pulled up her original designs. The quantum fold drive I showed the council was deliberately flawed. The real design has gaps, spaces I left for something I couldn't solve. What if those gaps aren't flaws? What if they're spaces for human consciousness to interface directly with quantum fields? Marcus was already running calculations. It could work. Human neural patterns are far more adaptable than crystalline structures. We might not match their computational precision, but we could exceed their ability to interpret and navigate quantum space. And that's why they're scared, Diana said softly. They're not afraid of our technology. They're afraid of how we think. She pulled up a classified military file. I've got 30 pilots ready to volunteer. All of them scored off the charts in quantum sensitivity tests. Tests the Empire insisted we stop conducting. Emily felt energy coursing through the room as possibilities began to align. We'll need resources, materials the Empire has banned, ways to test the system without being detected. Already handled, Diana grinned. You're looking at the new head of waste management for the Southwestern Territory. Amazing how much you can hide in garbage transports. As for testing, she brought up images of deep cave systems. There's a whole network of underground chambers, perfect for test flights. Marcus looked between the two women, his expression both excited and concerned. If the Empire catches us, they won't, Emily said with quiet certainty, because we're going to think like humans, not like them. They're looking for crystal-based technology, quantum signatures that match their understanding. We're going to show them something entirely new. Diana nodded approvingly. I like it. Project Icarus, then. No, Emily said, remembering the fear in High Counselor Zixtel's face. Project Phoenix, because when they think they've destroyed us, That's when we'll rise. The holodeble illuminated their faces as they gathered around it, 3 humans daring to challenge an empire that spanned galaxies. Above them, the Imperial survey ship passed overhead, its crystal matrix sensors scanning for threats its creators could understand. It found nothing unusual, exactly as planned. The abandoned mines of Olympus Mons groaned with ancient memories as Emily Roberts welded another panel of forbidden alloy into place. The quantum fold drive's housing took shape before her, its geometrically impossible angles catching the red light of Mars in ways that hurt the eyes. 6 months of work had transformed these forgotten tunnels into humanity's greatest secret. Imperial patrol, incoming. Marcus's voice crackled through her comm. Everyone to the shadow zones. Emily killed the plasma torch and grabbed her toolbox, ducking into one of the specially designed alcoves. The walls, lined with sensor-absorbing minerals, would hide any trace of their work. Above, the distinctive hum of crystal matrix engines vibrated through the Martian rock. "They're getting bold," Diana whispered through the comm. "Second patrol this week in the daylight hours. They usually stick to night sweeps." "They know something's happening," Emily replied softly. "Just not what." She clutched the data tablet containing their real progress reports. The Decoy Project, a perfectly legal but utterly useless research station studying Martian mineral deposits, continued above ground. The patrol passed, and work resumed. Emily emerged to find Marcus already recalibrating the quantum field generators. His hands moved with practiced efficiency, but his face showed strain. "The neural interface is fighting us again," he reported, pointing to a holographic readout. "We've got quantum coherence, but it's not stable. Human brainwave patterns are too chaotic." "Chaos isn't the problem," Emily said, studying the patterns. "It's our solution. Look at these fluctuations. They're not random. They're adaptive." A sudden explosion rocked the tunnel. Alarms blared as emergency force fields snapped into place, containing the breach. Through the shimming barrier, Emily watched in horror as 3 months of work on the primary engine core began to melt. "Sabotage." Diana's voice cut through the chaos. "Security breach in Section 7. I've got 3 unknowns trying to reach the surface." The sound of plasma fire echoed through the comms. Emily's mind raced. The engine core contained evidence of their true work. Evidence that would doom not just the project, but everyone involved. "Marcus, initiate Protocol Omega." "But that's 3 months off." "Do it." Marcus slammed his hand onto a crystal pad. Targeted plasma charges detonated throughout the engine core, reducing sensitive components to unrecognizable slag. Emily felt her heart clench as she watched their work dissolve, but her hands were already moving, pulling up new designs on her tablet. Diana status. 2 targets neutralized. 1 escaped topside. Probably Imperial intelligence. They'll be back with reinforcements. Emily nodded grimly. "Good. Let them come." She turned to Marcus, who stared at the cooling ruins of their work. "Remember what you said about chaos being a problem? I think we just found our answer." She pulled up the neural interface designs, making rapid modifications. "We've been trying to make human consciousness conform to quantum mechanics. But what if we let quantum mechanics conform to us?" Marcus's eyes widened as he followed her calculations. Multiple quantum states, existing simultaneously, shifting based on human intuition rather than crystalline computation. Exactly. The Zarkanians think in absolutes. Their crystal minds demand precision. But humans? Emily smiled, remembering her grandmother's old chess advice. Sometimes you have to sacrifice a piece to win the game. We thrive on uncertainty. Diana joined them, her uniform showing signs of combat. The saboteurs had Imperial tech, but they weren't Zarkanian. They hired locals. Humans working for the Empire. "Then we'll give them something to find," Emily said. "Marcus, implement the new design. Diana, let's prepare a welcome for their reinforcements." Over the next 24 hours, they transformed the facility. The real work moved deeper into the mountain. into tunnels whose existence they'd kept secret even from most of their own team. The sabotage section became an elaborate deception, filled with exactly what the Empire would expect to find: failed attempts to copy their technology. When the Imperial investigation team arrived, they found precisely what they were looking for: proof that humans couldn't possibly match Zarkanian engineering. They never thought to question why the humans seemed almost eager to let them inspect the facility. Deep below, in a chamber shielded by kilometers of Martian rock, Emily watched the quantum field generators power up. The new neural interface hummed with possibility, its quantum states shifting like thoughts in a human mind. "Phoenix Rising," she whispered, touching the hull of their true ship. "Let's show them what chaos can do." Diana Wells sat in the pilot's chair of Phoenix Rising, her fingers hovering over controls that weren't quite there. The neural interface headset felt cool against her temples as holographic displays shimmered in the air around her. In the cramped bridge, Emily and Marcus monitored their stations with the focused intensity of people trying not to show their fear. "Neural link initializing," Marcus announced, his voice steady despite the tension. "Quantum field generators at 30% and rising. No signs of detection from orbital security." Emily watched the readings on her station. "Remember, Diana, this isn't like any simulation. The quantum fold drive doesn't just respond to commands, it responds to intention. Your consciousness will merge with the quantum field," Diana finished, closing her eyes. "I remember the briefings. Just, nobody knows exactly what that means." The ship hummed to life around them, its advanced systems awakening one by one. As the quantum field strengthened, Diana felt something at the edges of her awareness, like hearing a song from another room, just barely audible. "Generators at 60%, Marcus reported. "Quantum coherence stable. Neural interface. Wait, these readings can't be right." Diana's eyes snapped open, but she wasn't seeing the bridge anymore. The quantum field had become visible to her mind's eye, not as energy or light, but as a living thing, a dance of possibilities extending in every direction. She could feel the ship's systems not as mechanical components, but as extensions of her own nervous system. "Diana." Emily's voice seemed to come from very far away. "Your neural patterns are. I've never seen anything like this." "I can see it," Diana whispered. "Not just the field. Everything. The quantum structure of space itself. It's beautiful." She lifted her hands, and Phoenix Rising responded not to the movement of her fingers, but to the intention in her mind. The ship rose silently from its underground berth, quantum fields bending reality around it in ways that made conventional sensors blind. "We're getting some kind of feedback loop," Marcus said urgently. "The neural interface is amplifying her quantum sensitivity exponentially. Should we abort?" "No," Emily replied, watching Diana's serene expression. "This is exactly what we hoped for. The Zarkanians use crystal matrices to calculate quantum states. We're letting human consciousness interpret them directly." Diana barely heard them. The ship had become more than a vessel. It was a window into the underlying fabric of the universe. She could see gravitational waves rippling through space-time, solar winds carrying quantum information between the planets, and something else: paths between the stars that had nothing to do with conventional space. "Taking us up," she announced, though she hardly needed to speak. Phoenix Rising moved like a thought, slipping through the Martian atmosphere without leaving a trace. They emerged into space, and Diana felt her awareness expand even further. "Imperial patrol ship at 300,000 kilometers, Marcus warned. "Their sensors will pick us up any second." Diana smiled. "No, they won't." She could see the patrol ship's crystal matrix sensors, their rigid scanning patterns trying to impose order on quantum chaos. With a thought, she guided Phoenix Rising through the gaps in their search pattern, not by hiding, but by existing in quantum states their technology couldn't comprehend. "My God," Emily breathed, watching the sensor readings. "You're not just avoiding their scans. You're dancing between quantum states. The ship exists in multiple positions simultaneously until observed. Better than that, Diana said, her voice filled with wonder. I can see the space between spaces. The quantum fold drive doesn't just move us through space. It lets us step outside it entirely. She demonstrated, and reality seemed to blur. For a fraction of a second, Phoenix Rising existed everywhere and nowhere. When they reappeared, Mars was a tiny dot behind them, and the gas giants loomed ahead. Distance from launch point, Marcus checked his instruments twice. Just over 2 billion kilometers. Time elapsed, 0.3 seconds. Emily's hands trembled as she recorded the data. The Empire said this was impossible, that human minds couldn't possibly handle quantum navigation. They were right, Diana said, feeling the ship hum in harmony with her thoughts. We can't handle it the way they do. We can do something much better. She turned to her crewmates, her eyes shining with the reflection of quantum possibilities. We can imagine it. The Imperial flagship Crystal Dominion emerged from quantum space like a shard of starlight, its crystalline hull refracting the light of distant suns. Behind it, a fleet of warships formed a perfect geometric pattern that would have brought tears to a mathematician's eyes. High Commander Zixtal stood on his command deck, his crystalline form pulsing with barely contained rage. Impossible, he hissed, watching the sensor readings of Phoenix Rising's quantum jumps. Their primitive minds cannot possibly comprehend the complexities of quantum navigation. In Phoenix Rising's cockpit, Diana felt rather than saw the Imperial fleet's arrival. The quantum field showed her their ships as disturbances in spacetime, their crystal matrix drives creating rigid patterns in the quantum foam. 37 ships, she reported calmly. They're trying to establish a containment grid. She could see the quantum lattice they were weaving, designed to trap any ship attempting conventional faster-than-light travel. Emily's hands flew over her console. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. Standard surrender demands. Let me show them our answer, Diana said, a fierce grin spreading across her face. She reached out with her quantum-enhanced senses, feeling the space between spaces. Phoenix Rising moved like a dancer through impossible geometries. Where the Imperial ships tried to predict her course through mathematical models, Diana simply felt the right path. The quantum fold drive responded to her intuition, allowing the ship to exist in multiple states simultaneously. Target locked, announced the Imperial weapons officer aboard Crystal Dominion, calculating firing solution based on standard evasive patterns. But Phoenix Rising didn't follow standard patterns. As crystalline energy beams lanced out, Diana guided the ship through quantum states that the Empire's targeting computers couldn't even conceive. Each shot passed through space where Phoenix Rising had been, would be, but never quite was. Marcus, Emily called out. Are you getting this? Their weapons, the crystalline matrices, are actually creating quantum pathways we can use. Already recording, Marcus replied, his fingers dancing across his station. Diana, their attack patterns are giving us a map of quantum vulnerabilities in their defense grid. Diana nodded, understanding instantly. The very precision of the Imperial fleet's formation was their weakness. Their rigid crystalline thinking demanded perfect spacing, perfect timing, perfect order. But the universe itself was built on uncertainty. Sending targeting data to all Imperial ships, the Crystal Dominion's tactical officer reported. Synchronized firing pattern in 3, 2. Diana closed her eyes, letting her consciousness merge more deeply with the quantum field. She could feel the Empire's attack coming, not as energy or matter, but as probability waves waiting to collapse into reality. In that moment of perfect clarity, she understood exactly what to do. Phoenix Rising danced. There was no other word for it. The ship moved through quantum states like a leaf in a storm, each position impossible to predict yet perfectly natural. The Imperial fleet's synchronized attack created a lethal web of energy beams and hit nothing but empty space. Break formation, Zixtal commanded, his crystalline form flickering with stress patterns. Reconfigure to pursuit protocols. But as the Imperial ships began to move, Diana sprung her trap. Phoenix Rising executed a series of quantum jumps that, to conventional sensors, made it appear to be in dozens of places simultaneously. The Imperial fleet's rigid formation shattered as ships maneuvered to chase phantom targets, their perfect geometric pattern dissolving into chaos. "They're broadcasting their battle footage," Marcus reported with a grin. "Can't help themselves. Their protocols demand complete documentation. The whole galaxy is watching humanity's primitive, ship-run circles around their finest fleet." Emily leaned forward, her eyes shining. "Diana, the quantum surge from their engines during the formation break. Could you use that too?" "Already on it," Diana replied. She could feel the disrupted quantum fields left by the Imperial ship's desperate maneuvers. Like stepping stones across a quantum river, she used their own energy signatures to amplify Phoenix Rising's capabilities. The ship leaped through space in ways that defied Imperial physics, each jump more impossible than the last. Crystal Dominion sensors struggled to maintain a lock, their crystalline computing matrices unable to adapt to the sheer unpredictability of human intuition, guided by quantum awareness. "This isn't a battle anymore," Emily said softly, watching the Imperial fleet's increasingly erratic responses. "It's a revolution. We're showing every oppressed species in the galaxy that the Empire isn't invincible." "They're not retreating," Diana observed, feeling the quantum surge as the Imperial ships prepared another attack. "They can't. Their pride won't let them." "Then let's give them a lesson in humility," Emily replied, "and show the galaxy exactly what humanity can do." News of Phoenix Rising's victory spread through the galaxy like wildfire, transmitted through hidden quantum channels, and whispered in the shadows of 1,000 worlds. Emily stood in the ship's conference room, now crowded with holographic representatives from species she'd only read about in forbidden historical archives. "The Cloud Hunters of Jupiter's moons stand with you," announced Elder Nexus, their methane-based form swirling like a living storm. "Our weapon caches, hidden since the Imperial conquest, are yours to command." "The Geodians offer our shield technology," rumbled Core Mother Vista, her silicon-based body gleaming with internal light. "For centuries, we've developed our defenses in secret beneath Mercury's surface. The time for hiding is over." Diana watched from her position by the door, noting how each species brought something unique to the table. The Empire had forced uniformity, demanding that all technological development follow their crystalline paradigm. But here, in this hidden gathering, diversity was becoming their greatest weapon. "The quantum fold drive can be modified," Emily explained, bringing up technical schematics. "Each species' unique biology offers different ways to interface with quantum fields. The Cloud Hunters' gaseous neural networks process quantum information in ways organic brains never could. The Geodians' crystalline silicon hybrid minds bridge the gap between biological and mineral consciousness." Marcus worked furiously at his station, incorporating data from their new allies. The Empire's biggest mistake was forcing everyone to think like them. "Look at these compatibility readings. Every species has their own quantum signature, their own way of perceiving reality." A new hologram flickered to life, a representative of the photonic collective, beings of pure energy who had been forced to dim their natural radiance under Imperial rule. "We have observed something remarkable in your quantum fold technology," they pulsed. "It does not merely translate through space-time. It adapts to the consciousness of its user." "That's the key," Emily said, expanding the holographic display to show the quantum interactions. "The Empire's crystal matrix technology demands precision, uniformity, perfect order. But the universe itself thrives on diversity. Each of our species sees quantum reality differently, and each perspective is valid." Warning alerts flashed through the ship. Diana straightened, checking tactical displays. Imperial response fleet detected. They're targeting resistance movements across 3 sectors. "Let them come," Elder Nexus swirled confidently. The Cloud Hunters have prepared for this day. Our storm ships are already moving into position. Core Mother Vista's crystalline structure pulsed with determination. The Geodian defense networks are activating. For too long, we've hidden our true capabilities. Emily watched as data streamed in from their allies. The Empire had expected to crush isolated pockets of resistance. Instead, they found themselves facing a coordinated alliance of species, each bringing their own unique strengths to the fight. Phoenix Rising will lead the first strike, Diana announced, already feeling the quantum field responding to her enhanced awareness. The Empire's formations are predictable. They can't comprehend multiple species working together. Their tactical doctrine has no protocols for this kind of cooperation. Marcus looked up from his station, his eyes wide with excitement. The quantum signatures from all our allied ships, they're creating interference patterns in the Imperial detection grid. Their sensors are calibrated for crystalline technology. They literally can't see what we're becoming. Emily felt a surge of pride as she watched the alliance take shape. Humanity's greatest contribution wasn't just the quantum fold drive. It was their ability to unite diverse species, to show that different approaches could work together in harmony. The Empire's reinforcements are jumping in, Diana reported. 7 battle groups, standard crystal matrix configuration. Perfect, Emily smiled. Let's show them what the combined knowledge of a dozen species can do. Diana, signal all allied ships. Operation Starburst is go. As Phoenix Rising led the combined fleet into battle, Emily watched the tactical display with a sense of wonder. Each species brought their own style to the fight. Cloud Hunter ships moved like living storms, Geodian vessels phased through solid matter, and the photonic-collected ships danced through quantum states that the Empire's sensors couldn't even detect. The Empire had spent millennia enforcing uniformity, never realizing that diversity itself could become a weapon. Now, as their flawless formations faced an enemy that fought with a dozen different strategies simultaneously, that mistake would prove fatal. Your ship showed us it was possible, Elder Nexus observed, watching the battle unfold. But what you've really given us is something far more precious than technology. Emily nodded, understanding. Hope. No, the Elder corrected. Unity. The crystalline spires of the Imperial capital glittered like frozen flames against the violet sky of Crystallos Prime. Phoenix Rising hung in high orbit, leading a fleet that defied every principle of Imperial military doctrine. Instead of geometric perfection, the Allied ships formed an ever-shifting constellation of chaos and purpose. Imperial defense grid powering up, Marcus reported from his station. They're activating the Crystal Crown, their planetary shield network. Emily watched as massive crystalline satellites aligned themselves around the planet, their energy matrices forming complex geometric patterns, just as we expected. Their defense grid is the pinnacle of crystal matrix technology, perfectly ordered, perfectly predictable, and perfectly vulnerable, Diana added, her consciousness already merged with the quantum field. Through her enhanced perception, she could see the quantum structure of the defense grid, beautiful, intricate, and fatally rigid in its perfection. The command channel crackled with High Commander Zixfel's voice, his tone carrying the harmonic resonance of barely contained rage. This rebellion ends today. Your primitive alliance cannot hope to breach the Crystal Crown. Surrender now, and your species may yet survive as productive members of the Empire. Emily keyed the response channel. You still don't understand, Commander. We're not here to destroy your empire. We're here to transform it. She nodded to Diana. Show them what true harmony looks like. Phoenix Rising moved first, its quantum signature rippling through space in ways that made the Imperial sensors strain to comprehend. The Cloud Hunter vessels followed, their storm-like forms creating quantum turbulence that disrupted the defense grid's perfect symmetry. Geodian ships phased through the resulting gaps, their hybrid crystal silicon technology confusing the automated targeting systems. Multiple contacts. Marcus called out. Imperial fleet emerging from quantum space. At least 300 capital ships. The space above Crystallis Prime erupted in chaos as the Imperial fleet engaged the Allies. Crystalline energy beams lanced out in mathematically perfect patterns, seeking targets that refuse to follow conventional laws of physics. They're trying to force us into standard combat formations, Diana observed, guiding Phoenix rising through impossible vectors. Their tactical computers can't adapt to our mixed strategy approach. Emily watched as the battle unfolded according to their predictions. The Imperial ships, bound by their rigid doctrine, attempted to impose order on the battlefield. But the Allied fleet fought like a living organism, each species contributing its unique strengths to create something entirely new. Photonic Collective. Execute pattern sunburst, Emily commanded. Ships of pure energy accelerated to speeds that violated Imperial physics, their quantum wakes creating interference patterns in the Crystal Crown's defensive matrix. Cloud Hunters. Initiate storm protocol, Diana added. The methane-based ships spun together, generating artificial quantum storms that the Imperial targeting systems couldn't penetrate. Geodians. Begin resonance cascade. Marcus completed the sequence. Silicon hybrid vessels released carefully calibrated energy pulses that set up harmonic vibrations in the crystal matrix technologies. Above the Imperial capital, reality itself seemed to shiver as multiple quantum manipulation techniques combined in ways the Empire had never imagined possible. The Crystal Crown's perfect geometric patterns began to fragment, its rigid structure unable to adapt to the chaos of combined species warfare. High Commander Zixtal's voice cut through the tactical channels again, but this time there was something new in his crystalline harmonics. Fear. What? What are you doing? This defies all known laws of quantum mechanics. No, Emily replied calmly. It defies your understanding of those laws. The universe isn't built on perfect order, Commander. It's built on beautiful chaos, on endless variation, on the combination of different perspectives and approaches. As if to prove her point, Phoenix Rising executed a maneuver that should have been impossible, using the quantum wake of a Cloud Hunter ship to amplify its jump capability. The ship appeared inside the Crystal Crown's defensive perimeter, its human quantum interface creating ripples in space-time that transformed the rigid energy patterns into new configurations. Imperial defense grid at 30% efficiency and falling, Marcus reported with fierce satisfaction. Their crystal matrix networks are trying to compensate, but they can't handle the quantum complexity we're generating. Diana's voice was distant, lost in the quantum awareness of the battle. The Empire built their technology to impose order on quantum chaos, but we've learned to swim in that chaos, to embrace it, to make it our strength. Emily watched as the Crystal Crown began to fail, its perfect patterns dissolving into new forms that reflected the combined quantum signatures of a dozen species working in harmony. Above the Imperial capital, the rigid geometry of crystal matrix technology gave way to something new, something that combined the strengths of every species in the Alliance. "Look," she said softly, as the Imperial fleet's formation began to break. Even their ships are learning to dance. The great hall of the former Imperial Palace sparkled with transformed purpose, its crystalline walls now refracting light in countless new patterns. Where once rigid geometric forms had dominated, now organic curves and flowing lines intertwined with crystal lattices, creating a harmony of natural and mineral beauty. Emily Roberts stood at the center of the chamber, surrounded by representatives of every species in the newly formed Galactic Coalition. The last Imperial holdouts have accepted the transition terms, Diana reported, her neural interface now a sleek band that complemented her formal diplomatic uniform. They're beginning to understand that we're not here to destroy their way of life, just to help it evolve. High Counselor Zixtal, his crystalline form showing new patterns of iridescent color that would have been unthinkable in the old empire, stepped forward. "We were wrong," he announced, his voice carrying none of its former rigid harmonics. "We thought uniformity was strength. We thought order could only come from control. The universe teaches us otherwise. Emily replied, gesturing to the holographic display showing the quantum fold drive's latest iteration. Look at what we've achieved in just 3 months of true collaboration. The display showed ships of various designs, each incorporating elements from multiple species. Crystalline technology merged seamlessly with organic computing, while quantum fields danced in patterns that reflected the combined consciousness of their diverse crews. Marcus, now heading the Coalition's scientific exchange program, brought up another set of readings. The breakthroughs are accelerating. The Cloud Hunters' gaseous neural networks have revolutionized our understanding of quantum consciousness. The Geodians' silicon crystal hybrid systems have opened up entirely new computing paradigms. And the Empire's own crystal matrix technology, Diana added, is evolving in ways they never imagined possible. Turns out crystals can learn to dance. They just needed the right partners. A group of young Zarkanians approached, their forms showing the new patterns that had begun to appear in their species since the revolution. Where once they had maintained rigid geometric shapes, now their crystalline bodies flowed with organic curves, adapting and changing like living things. "We wish to learn," their spokesperson said, her form shimmering with uncertainty that would have once been suppressed. "Our quantum sensitivity, it's different now. We feel things we never knew were possible." Emily smiled, remembering her first presentation to the Imperial Science Council. "That's because you're finally allowing yourselves to feel. Quantum reality isn't just about mathematics and precision. It's about possibility, adaptation, and growth." Phoenix Rising, now restored and modified with contributions from every Coalition species, hung in a place of honor above the capital city. Its quantum fold drive had been replicated and improved upon, but the original remained special, a symbol of how one act of defiance could transform a galaxy. "The museum exhibition opens tomorrow," Diana said softly. "They want to preserve the ship exactly as it was during the final battle." "Not exactly as it was," Emily corrected. "The ship should reflect who we are now, not just who we were then. Let's incorporate elements from all our allies, show how far we've come together." The chamber's crystalline walls pulsed with new energy as representatives from each species added their own touches to the museum plans. The Photonic Collective contributed light sculptures that captured the quantum dance of the final battle. The Cloud Hunters created atmospheric displays that let visitors feel the emotions of those historic moments. The Geodians added resonating crystals that sang with the combined harmonies of all Coalition species. High Counselor Zixtal approached Emily privately as the planning session wound down. "There is still much fear among my people," he admitted. "Change does not come easily to crystalline minds." "Change isn't easy for anyone," Emily replied. "But look around you. Every species here had to overcome their fears, their preconceptions, their comfortable certainties. That's not weakness. It's the greatest strength there is." As if to emphasize her point, a group of human and Zarkanian children ran past, playing with quantum toys that responded to both crystalline and organic neural patterns. They moved together naturally, neither species trying to impose their way of thinking on the other. "That's what the Empire never understood," Diana observed, watching the children play. "True power doesn't come from forcing everyone to be the same. It comes from learning to be different together." Emily nodded, touching the wall where crystal met organic curves in a perfect blend of old and new. "They mocked us for being primitive, for being chaotic, for being different. But in the end, those differences saved us all." Above them, Phoenix Rising caught the light of 3 setting suns, its hybrid quantum drive humming with the combined brilliance of a dozen species technologies. The ship that had once been humanity's desperate gamble had become something more. A reminder that the future belongs not to those who demand uniformity, but to those who dare to dream in different ways.